Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k, the Necrons channel. Now we're continuing on with our faction focus, our mini Know Your Foe series from the previews from the Warhammer community website. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about the Imperial Knights, we're going to be talking about the army rule, the detachment rule and anything else of note, along with some potential weaknesses or some observations that I've made while reading this article. Right, so let's get onto the army rule to begin. So at the end of the read missions objectives step, they can select one of the oaths below. So already they've got a little bit of an advantage there because they get to see your list. They're going to gain an associated oath ability along with an associated deed ability to complete. So a bit of a quest, if you like, for these Imperial Knights. So the oath abilities that they can select from, the first one is Lay Low the Tyrant. So this will give them reroll hit rolls of a 1 and reroll wound rolls of a 1. Now it's not entirely clear if it's one single hit roll of a 1 and one single wound roll of a 1 or it's all of them, because it just says reroll a hit roll of a 1 and reroll a wound roll of a 1. Could that just mean any? Do you know what I mean? It could be any, it could be a single one. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really know and I don't want to have a guess at that. But that's what they're going to get for the rest of the battle. That's army wide. I mean, there's not going to be that many models, it's knights, but for the rest of the battle that's what they get. And as for the deed for Lay Low the Tyrant, they will complete the deed if the enemy warlord is destroyed. So if they do gain their deed, they're going to instantly gain 3 command points, which of course is going to help for the stratagems, and it will make them honoured, which will actually interact with some of the other stratagems as well. If they were to select that one, you don't want to be throwing your warlord away, which you don't want to be doing that anyway, of course. But the likelihood is you want to be keeping your warlord back. Now, if you do have the unfortunate situation where we've got a really choppy warlord and we've thrown him out front and centre, then unfortunately, you know, you're playing into their hands. So going up against Imperial Knights, I'd advise not to do that, not have a front and centre, you know, like we've had in the past. We've had the Locust Lord, was a little bit choppy. The Silent King, of course, could go and do a bit of damage. I mean, to be fair, most of our characters are actually buffing characters anyway, so they're going to be staying back with units anyway, and with the new leader ability, they'll be within a unit. So maybe that won't affect Necron players as much as it could to other factions. Now that's the first oath. The second oath is Reclaim the Realm. So they gain an additional 1 inch to their movement, as well as a 1 inch to the advance and charge moves, or charge rolls, for all the models in their army. So they're going to be much quicker. Less deadlier because they're not re-rolling all those ones that we spoke about, but they're much quicker this time. So they're not going to select that if we've got a melee based faction, because we're probably going to go towards them, or at the very least we're going to get onto objectives and stuff like that. But if we're a stay back and shoot kind of faction, if we're playing our Necrons really shooty, then maybe that's what they want to do. They want to advance as far up the table as they can, get onto objectives, get into a fist fight as well as shooting, because that's what they can do, right? Now their deed to gain their 3 command points and be honoured for this Reclaim the Realm is to basically control 1 or more objectives in our deployment zone. Now that one's quite difficult, but if you've got a lot of these knights running up the battlefield, it can be done. And in fact we'll go down to the objective control. They're given a couple of data sheets in fact. So one of them, the Warglaive, has got objective control 8. And the other one, which is the Canis Rex, which is their epic hero, has objective control 10. Now previously Imperial Knights just counted as 5 models when determining controllers of an objective. It wasn't even objective secured or anything like that. But objective control 8 or 10, that's just from 2 examples there. That can quite easily take over an objective if we're not careful. So that would literally complete their deed. They'll get 3 command points and yeah, it's going to interact with stratagems later on. So the only way to really combat both of these things is, well, the first one we already kind of said it, we need to be hiding a warlord, making sure that he's out of sight, obscuring terrain, all that jazz. Get him out of sight, we don't want him getting shot down. And as for the second one, if you're playing melee, you've got to meet them in the middle and just go for it. But if you are playing shooty, then yeah, you're going to have to screen it off really well. You're going to have to make sure that they don't enter the deployment zone, taking out the nearest one at a time. I mean, that probably sounds really obvious, but that's the only advice with Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights, they're a whole different ball game, aren't they? There's no sort of... the tactics are completely different to playing like a standard army, like, you know, Tyranid, Space Marines, Tau. It's very different. I mean, they've got tons of wounds. They've got, you know, it's really hard to get through their wounds because of the toughness. Toughness is, of course, it's gone up as well because they are vehicles and monsters. Well, they're vehicles, but vehicles and monsters in the game have gone up. So for example, this first datasheet is toughness 10, the second one is toughness 12, 22 wounds. They've got the invuln saves of a 5+, and we're going to get onto a feel no pain save in a moment too. So in fact, speaking of the feel no pain save, we might as well get onto that now, which is their detachment rule, Noble Lance. And basically all Imperial Knight units are going to have they're going to have a 6+ feel no pain save, and that will also work against mortal wounds. It's against all wounds. So not only are they going to have the 3+ armor save, they're going to have the 5+ invulnerable save, as well as a 6+ feel no pain save. So quite a lot to get through. Now, if their army is honoured, so if they've completed their quest, completed their deed, then this 6+ will go to a 5+. That is not where you want to be. You do not want to be giving models in their army a third of a chance of literally shrugging off every single wound. It's hard enough to get through each one as it is. So giving them that additional resiliency is just not where you want to be. So by all means, you need to make sure you're not allowing them to complete their quest. It's as simple as that. If they complete their quest, you are pretty much done for. Their army rule and detachment rule is definitely simplified compared to 9th edition. I mean, 9th edition, they were to select 2 of the oaths rather than 1, and there are no honor points this time, whereas they had honor points in the previous edition. But as for some other key things of note from the data sheets and stratagems that they've showcased on the article, mainly from the Canis Rex, I want to talk a little bit about the Canis Rex, because this is like an absolute nightmare to deal with, to be honest with you. I mean, it's got the sustained hits ability on the weapons, and pretty much, yeah, in fact, every single weapon it has, it's got sustained hits ability. So a roll of a 6, a hit roll of a 6 will cause an additional hit. But if you look into the actual abilities, Chain Breaker, each time a model makes an attack, and on modified successful hit roll of a 5, scores a critical hit, which effectively becomes a sustained hit. So a 5+ roll gives them more hits. And if you look even closer at one of the melee weapons in particular, which is the Freedom's Hand Strike melee weapon, it's got 5 attacks, it hits on 2s, strength 20, so it's likely going to be wounded on 3s if not 2s, AP -3, and the damage is 9. So if they get all 5 of them to go through, that's without any sustained hits, by the way, you've got to accept those as well. But that's a minimum, well, it's not minimum, but it's 45 damage potentially without the sustained hits alone there. I mean, okay, they're going to miss maybe one of the attacks, but remember, they could potentially be re-rolling hit rolls over 1 with their army rule. So yeah, things can get ugly quite fast against these kind of models, really. Something else worth noting here, I've noticed that where was it? In the faction area, I don't know whether they've confirmed what this is or not, but in the faction where it has their army role, it also says Super Heavy Walker. I don't know what that means. If you do know, let me know down in the comments below, because that is new to me. But yeah, let's try and combat this. Before we end this video, let's talk about some weaknesses overall. Now, the only one I can think of which seems to be a common theme in all of these faction focuses is Battle Shock. If we can Battle Shock these kind of units, or these kind of vehicle models, these knights, then we take away their objective control and their use of stratagems. That's 2 things particularly that are quite key for taking out any of the armies, in fact, in 10th edition. Now, the leadership of the Warglaives at 7+, which is, that's standard nowadays. Necrons are also a 7+. Half a chance of pretty much failing them. And the Canis Rex is at 5+, so it's actually a lot better, isn't it? But if we've got a way of forcing Battle Shock tests, or getting it below half wounds, I mean, the Warglaive has 12 wounds, so getting it down to below half, which would be 5, that would force a test as well. But any other ways that can force a test, maybe the Psychomancer can force a test. I'm kind of making this up, but something within our codex will force a Battle Shock test. And if we can get them to fail it, then that's going to help us massively, because, again, they're not going to have that many of these knights on the game, on the battlefield. And even if you just nullify one of them with objective control being 0 and no stratagem, just for a turn, that could swing things in our favour. But yeah, guys, let me know down in the comments below your thoughts towards Imperial Knights, your experiences from 9th edition, if you've got any of those. Also, you can hit me up on the Discord as well. In our Post Your Games area of the Discord, you can put some battles that you've had as well. But other than that, guys, like and subscribe on your exits. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.